Hey everyone, welcome back to another Saturday Morning Block Party podcast. I'm your host Norbert, and I know it's been a long time, but hey, here's a new episode. Just want to remind you guys that we're not dead, we're not on hiatus, but we're on an episodes will come out when they come out schedule. All that means is that no, we're not on a regular schedule at the moment, and I don't want to make promises as to when the next episode will be. So until I tell you otherwise, don't be worried. Just take it as it is. Speaking of late episode, this is something that I have wanted to get out since November. And the reason I wanted to get it out in November is because, well, you see the title, Cancer and Cartoon, and November is Movember, or No Shave November. And what that is, a month dedicated raising awareness and funds testicular cancer and prostate cancer and other men's health issue. So I thought it would be a good idea to use this to, bring awareness. And I know that it's July, but I think what I'll do is when November comes around again this year, I'll just re-upload it. But anyway, today I have with me Kappa Lizzy, or Lizzy Silvis, and if you listen to our Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon retrospective, it's Juice and Jam time, you'll remember her. We talked about the Sonic cartoons and she shared her story about her brain cancer and how Sonic the Hedgehog helped her through. Today we're going to talk about the Peanut special, Why Charlie Brown Why, and we'll talk about Arthur special, The Great MacGrady. I hope you enjoy. I'll see you again at the end of the episode. The Great MacGrady is an episode of Arthur dealing with the lunch lady at Arthur's school, Mrs. McGrady, who found out that she has cancer. And this isn't the first time Arthur has had an episode with a heavy topic. There was one called April 9th, I think, which was about tragedies in life. It was supposed to be an episode to kind of relate to 9/11 because that had happened, I think, 2 years prior. And that was what that episode was about. And so this isn't something new for Arthur. And I watched this episode a few years after it came out when I was a teenager then, and I was really impressed how well they handled it. What did you think of it?
I actually really enjoyed it because it was fun to see how everyone was helping in their own way. Of course, Muffy is always being Muffy. I just kind of felt like Francine was kind of feeling too bad for herself because she wasn't responsible, but she kind of acted like it was all her fault.
How do you mean?
Well, she didn't want to visit McGrady. She didn't want to do anything. She just sat around the house and moped and felt like there's nothing I can do. And Muffy just always made me feel like she didn't care. At first she didn't care. She just cared more about herself. But it was really nice to see Arthur and his sister care. But it's kind of funny because they cared too much to the point to where even though McGrady was sick, you're kind of pretty sure that she would probably tell him, hey, back off a little bit, I'm getting my space. But I really like the way they handled it because they kind of handle it like a way I guess a child would handle it. They just want to help you get better. And everyone had their own way to help. And overall, the episode handled it really well. I didn't really see Buster get involved too much. He was more concerned about his cafeteria food.
The way I see this episode is that it was written so you could get a lot of common responses to someone having cancer put into different characters. Francine, for example, she's probably the main character to be focused on in this. Her reaction was not really knowing what to do, being uncomfortable around the person because she felt guilty.
She was responsible for it. It's you weren't responsible for it at all.
The way I saw it, it was more like she had this view of Miss McGrady, and she had such a good memory of her. And if she saw her sick, she doesn't know if she'd be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also Arthur and DW's reaction, which was bring lots of gifts, food, and stuffed animals and balloons and stuff like that.
Yeah, they basically wanted to have her not think of the cancer, but think of all the nice stuff that they were bringing.
Right.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good thing. I do encourage that if you are dealing with cancer and stuff like that, because that's basically what Sonic did for me. Was, you forget you have this, and yes, you do have cancer, you are in the hospital, but you can be happy knowing that, hey, you have good friends and you've got these cute little stuffed animals or, a really good chicken soup. That's what they were doing. They were trying to make her forget she had cancer and just focus on the good things.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff. And there was Muffy's reaction, which was, it really didn't affect her too much. And she was a little bit ignorant about cancer, which is fine. She's 8 years old. And she was thinking she really didn't know how much more serious it was than like the flu.
Mm-hmm. But she was kind of positive, like, oh, she's going to be fine. And that's good because, you want to be positive despite she was being all arrogant about it. She was at least being positive. And
right.
That's good.
And I like how she's the one who ended up stumbling upon better ways to help McGrady than bringing her enough stuffed animals and chicken soup to feed an entire children's ward.
Yeah. And it was nice to see, Lance Armstrong being in that episode. That's great. And I think, him sharing the story is like really terrific for any child out there dealing with that.
Yeah. And later on in the story, Francine emails Lance Armstrong because, of course, he has cancer. I think it was testicular cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They don't mention testicles in the show, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was actually in Arthur before in an episode about Binky, but I'm just showing off my Arthur now. And he was really encouraging towards Francine because the type of email Francine wrote about her being scared for Mr. McGrady really felt genuine. Like this, what an actual kid would say if you got them to write a letter like this. Mm-hmm. And he came down and encouraged Francine when she was having a fundraiser bike-a-thon for the cure.
Mm-hmm. That was wonderful.
How do you like the other parts of the show? Because another thing they do is explain what it means when you have cancer.
Well, I love how they handle it because they handled it in a way where a child would understand. When I had my brain tumor, I wish they had done that for me instead of just blunt telling me you have this and you got 2 weeks to live. It's like, what? But it's really nice that the way they were handling it, the way they describe, basically it's like little weeds and you're trying to get rid of the little weeds. They handle it in just a simple way a child understands. And I really like the way they handled that.
Yeah, the way they explained what cancer is. There was a scene with DW and Arthur and Mr. McGrady, and DW didn't know what cancer was, so Mr. McGrady started drawing her pictures and started using a flower garden as a metaphor for her body, and the flowers and weeds as metaphors for healthy cells and cancer cells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really cute.
Yeah. And there was also explaining about, there was the talk about hand sanitizer because cancer patients' immune system the best.
Yes, that's actually true because, from what I went through, I remember always being told you have to wash your hands and the doctors, of course, your parents too. But yeah, that was something else because I remember all that. But yeah, and it's kind of sad how you see that, but it's like, no, that's true. I mean, as tough as it is, yeah, I like the way that they handled that episode because they were, true to it. They weren't making anything up and making it cute or anything. It was actually like, hey, these things are real. This is what you got to do to handle it. If you have a friend who has cancer, you do have to do these simple little things like hand sanitizer, washing your hands really well, things like that.
And they also went over, and one more thing, they mentioned the part about chemotherapy and hair loss.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and a lot of people don't understand that, but that's real. I know. I liked how in this episode, I liked how McGrady chose to wear the bandana instead of a wig, and she explained why she chose it. And Muffy was kind of cute when she was like, "Oh, I thought that was just a fashion thing." It's like, no, but that part is real. I mean, you do lose your hair when you get chemotherapy. And some patients do choose to get like a nice little wig, or some just choose to get, like a bandana. It's all, choice preferences.
Right. And later on, they go over ways to help someone if they have cancer. Because at first it was basically bring a lot of gifts. That's what people thought that they should do, but then they realized the better way was to help them out with chores around the house, like taking out the trash, washing the dishes, sweeping up.
Yes, because sadly, the cancer, if you notice in the episode, it would make McGrady very weak, very tired. Because when DW was complaining about her candy, she dropped some of it on the floor, and McGrady was too weak to get up and clean it. So Muffy offered, which is really nice. And sadly, that's true. I mean, that this stuff will make you tired, sleepy, just simple little things that you are used to doing all along. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, I can't do this because I'm tired. So getting that extra help around the house is, a great thing.
Right. And they really encouraged a lot of community and helping people, because we see Miss McGrady's sister come and help her out. And then we have basically the entire neighborhood coming together, encouraging her, helping her.
Yeah, I really liked how Francine with the help of Lance Armstrong, but they had that pedal for a cure. That was really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that part. That was really nice, because I've seen more and more little events like that pop up here. In fact, yesterday I was part of I attended an event called Grill Your Ace Off, which basically the Ace hardware stores here in I don't know if it's exclusive to Texas, Ace hardware stores, but the one by me had a grill off, and it was benefiting Texas Children's Hospital, Children's Miracle Network, and they had a miracle child who I believe beat cancer, and she was there. So they were raising money for Texas Children's Hospital. So it was really nice to meet her because she's a miracle child. So that was nice that here we did in this area of Houston. That was really nice. And I believe they raised a lot of money, and you got to try a lot of different samples of barbecue. So that was really fun. Yeah. And I like that because, it's a good encouragement that people can know that, anyone can make a little event like a little bike-a-thon or a little grilling event or, anything to actually help people with cancer. I think that's a wonderful thing to do.
So do you have any more thoughts on The Great MacGrady?
Overall, I really liked the episode. The way it ended, I saw that it was in memory of, I don't know who that person is. I hope that person beat it, or I'm not sure if you saw the very ending, so I'm not familiar with who that person was.
Let me look it up really.
Okay. But yeah, I have to say, Arthur and DW, they definitely were great people. I love how they were always smiling and happy and always being helpful. That's typical of them. But, I really like the way they handled it. I like the way you kind of want to tell them, don't y'all feel like y'all are carrying too much? Because it's like 500 plushies on the floor, and you got 8 cartons of homemade chicken soup, and wow. But, overall, back when I had my brain tumor surgery and everything, I wish I had friends like them. I mean, it would have been really nice. But, unfortunately, that didn't happen to me.
Okay, the episode was dedicated to Leah Ryan. She was a writer for the TV show, and she co-wrote the episode The Great MacGrady and passed away before it was finished.
Oh.
Yeah, the episode was inspired after she was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Rest in peace. So are you ready to move on to Why Charlie Brown Why?
Yeah.
Okay. Why Charlie Brown Why is the first Charlie Brown special of the 1990s. It's about a character named Janice, who's, I think this is her first appearance, maybe only appearance in the Peanuts franchise. She's a girl at Charlie Brown's Linus's school, and she's friends with Linus, and she has cancer, and we see how the different characters deal with it, mostly through Linus's point of view. And the episode ends with her going into remission, and it looks like everything's going to be fine by the end of it. What did you think of Why Charlie Brown Why?
I really liked that one as well. In the beginning, she was getting a lot of bruises, and she couldn't figure out why they weren't healing. And Sadly, that is one of your first signs of you may have cancer. I'm not saying that you will or that you do, but I like how they were, pointing out little things here and there. She was starting to get sick. She was starting to get, fevers and start to get weak. These are usually the first signs when there's something really wrong. I really liked how afterwards, I'm trying to think how to say. I like the way how the main characters handled it. Charlie was really something else. He tried to be helpful, but sometimes he didn't know what to say because he was like, well, he mentioned, "Are you gonna die?" And of course, it ticked off his friend, and she was like, "No, it's okay. You can ask that." Because Charlie Brown didn't know how to handle it. He didn't know what question to ask, and of course, Lance was trying to be super supportive, which was wonderful. I liked how he handled when she was getting bullied. He handled that really well. I really liked how he handled that.
To give some background on this special, the idea came from, and I'm reading this from Wikipedia, Sylvia Cook, who was a nurse at the Stanford Children's Hospital, and she wrote a letter to Charles Schultz asking him to make short so that she could show to her young patients about cancer. And Charles Schultz has a bit of a history with cancer. His mom died of cancer, and eventually he died of cancer, 10 years after it came out.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really excited about this, and instead of making this short, he decided to make a full half-hour special. And it got a lot of positive reception, and I can see why, because...
Yes, because, every character handled it really well. Her sisters, when they introduced it, I'm gonna assume those were her sisters.
Right.
They were something else because they seemed kind of jealous in a way, but I liked the way afterwards they were accepting it, all these presents, maybe that's how some people show they care. And it's good that they ended that little scene in a positive way. It is hard when your sister or your brother are getting all the attention, but you should never be jealous because you never know what's going to happen afterwards. And you should never wish anything negative on anyone like that either, because you can regret it later.
Right. I liked that scene too, and that seemed like a reasonable kind of reaction from little kid. Because it's not just materialistic, like the presents. They get a lot less attention. When you have a child that has a terminal illness, that's very likely to take up a lot of your time and attention. So you probably won't spend as much for other.
Exactly, because they were also mentioning how they had to be so careful around her, how they can't get the chicken pox. Basically, they were treating her like she lives in a bubble. Don't touch her, don't come near her. And I can relate to that because that's basically how things became in my household when they found out I had the brain tumor, and then after the surgery, my sister was not. She's older than me. She definitely was not a happy camper. She didn't like all the changes in our house. And our house was clean, spick and span from head to toe after I came back, and everything had to have a freshly washed towel. If I had to lay down, my mom had made sure she put down a freshly washed towel down, and I would have to lay my head on that. She didn't want my head laying on a pillow or anything else. Had to be a fresh towel.
Oh, that sounds like how it is for a newborn baby.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone handles it differently. But, yeah, my sister was getting very aggravated whenever I would step into the room, or if she had to help feed me. She didn't like that things changed that much because of me. So when I saw the episode, I'm like, well, I understand how those little girls feel. And I'm glad that they didn't mean it because, Lance did ask, you don't really mean that, do you? When they were basically saying that they wish something bad would happen to her in a way. You don't mean that. They go, no, not really. It's just, we're just aggravated, basically is what they were saying. But it was nice that they ended it, cleaned it up. Where it's okay, they accepted in the end, okay, people are just trying to help her. Don't be jealous. Just be supportive. Especially them, because those are her sisters.
Right. And these episodes are both actually really similar. Why Charlie Brown Why also does the thing where it goes through a lot of different reactions, common ones that kids might have. And there are actually a couple of different ones that this does. Like, for example, we just talked about this. And then there's Lucy. What?
Lucy.
Yeah, where she's talking about cancer being contagious, and Linus sets her straight.
Oh, it's Linus. I kept saying Lance.
Maybe you're thinking of Lance Armstrong.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing is, she was kind of, well, she's being Lucy. I mean,
yeah,
there's no other way to describe Lucy. Lucy is Lucy. Yeah, she was kind of being a butthead about it, like, oh, don't touch me. Ew. I know that feeling. Because that's exactly what happened to me once I went back to school after my brain tumor surgery. That's how I was bullied a lot. It's like nobody wanted to get near me. Everybody was grossed out by me. So what she did reminded me exactly of what I went through. And I gotta say, that's a really sucky feeling. To be treated like you're some kind of diseased person. Like, don't come near me. Ew. Don't give me this milk anymore. I don't want it. It's like, well, dang it, man. I know how that feels. So I could definitely relate to that part.
I like how Linus is in character as kind of the kid who's smarter and wiser, smart and wise beyond his years, but they don't make him a know-it-all because, I mean, they don't just make him the super reasonable guy who's got all the answers, because even though he sets a ton of people straight, like Lucy and the bully, we get to see that it's really taking an emotional toll on him, and we see him getting really sad and really angry. There's a scene where he's walking home from the hospital after visiting us, and you just see him getting angry. And I thought that was a really good touch. It was a really smart decision to make this episode go through Linus's.
Yeah, because you know that's her best friend, and the best friend is watching his best friend in this condition, and there's nothing he can do. He just thought it was just a fever, and that, you know, it'd go away in a few days, but it's something, there's nothing he can do. And I think that's where he felt stressed out, like there's nothing he can do himself other than still be a good friend and help her out and talk to her and make her feel better. And, you know, in the same way is help her forget about that she has that cancer, but just be there, be her friend, talk to her, be supportive. That part I liked, because that's what they try to do, is they try to do things to help you not focus on the negative, but on something positive, something good.
When I was watching this, to be honest, I was scared that Janet wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, because I mean, that would be sad. I mean, that's kind of what I was almost expecting from the McGrady episode, because at the end, you know, she still had, you know, cancer, but
yeah, plus she's an old,
and you know, that's what you think is going to happen in this episode too, because sadly, you know, and you don't want to admit it, but it is true, is sometimes a lot of children don't survive cancer. But I like how she did beat it, and that's a good message out there for kids in the hospital right now who are dealing with leukemia or other types of cancer, that they say that they see this character survived. Therefore, it gives them a positive message that they can beat it too.
Right. I thought of that after I watched it. I think it was a really good decision to have her live. I was actually expecting her not to make it, because it feels like, at least to me, a lot of Peanuts is bad stuff happening. You know, you get this, or something bad happens, something, life kind of sucking, but you picking it up and keep going anyway. But I think it's best that it went in a positive direction.
Yeah, and that's good, because you want the kids who are watching in the hospital right now to say, she beat it, I can beat it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. The main message you want to give people is that, and how people around you will react to it. So that way, you know, in a way, kids can be prepared for those situations.
Yeah, it seemed like the Arthur episode was almost entirely focused on kids who know someone with cancer, and not really focused on kids who have cancer. But this does a pretty even job of targeting both sets of kids. And
also in the McGrady episode, if you remember, Francine mentioned that their grandfather had died of cancer. So that's why Francine was so scared for McGrady, because she was like, well, our grandfather didn't make it. And that's what she was afraid of, is that she was going to lose McGrady too. But they keep it positive. They try to give a positive message that even though this happened, don't expect it to happen to this person too. They can beat it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. That's what the Peanuts episode was focused on, is showing that this girl beat it. She got her hair back and everything was okay.
True. And I like how this episode wasn't entirely about the cancer. It kept it light with some jokes like Snoopy's hijinks in the hospital.
Yeah. Having Snoopy in there is always a good thing.
Yeah.
He can lighten the mood.
And I love how Charlie is. I think they knew the doctor was Snoopy, but they just kept making jokes about it.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice.
I know they do that for fun, but it's also to lighten the mood with like any kid who may be watching the episode is just think of the doctor like Snoopy. Just someone fun who's there to help you, but can still
Yeah, especially since this had some really sad moments or emotionally intense moments. Mm-hmm. Arthur is good, but it really can't compete with Charles Schultz. I mean, there were scenes like when Linus was walking home, that was very emotionally intense. And there was also the scene where Linus was standing up to the bully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember seeing just that scene years ago by itself and being, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he really let him have it.
Yeah.
And I really wish someone like that had existed when I was being bullied. I mean, that whole entire scene, you're like, wow, I really wish someone like that had existed for me back then. Because he really stood up to that bully. He was like, hey, you don't understand anything, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, he really let him have it. And at the end, the bully did apologize and he did try to, be nice once he knew. But yeah, I mean, they handled that in a really good way. I really like how they handled that. I mean, he was honest and he made sure that bully, left them alone.
Yeah. And I also liked how it reminded us, because you'll see this in other Peanut specials, but Linus doesn't mess around.
Mm-hmm.
He'll straight up beat somebody up.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised he didn't. I mean, he was basically choking that bully.
Yeah. Don't mess with Linus.
Yeah. He was something else.
Yeah. So do you have any more thoughts on why Charlie Brown, why your cartoon with cancer?
Yeah, I don't really recall too many episodes being made out there that deal with things like this. I really wish they would, but, especially the way cartoons are these days, it's all about jokes and farts and laughs. It's like, I think people forget that some of these really, really popular shows, especially like, the ones on Cartoon Network and stuff, they really should consider doing an episode like Arthur or like the Peanuts episode. They really should, because every child out there has a certain show that they love. If that show even if they had just one episode similar to this, I think it would help out a lot of kids out there who are dealing with cancer and things like that.
Yeah, cartoons really don't handle heavy stuff, because we're actually talking about this a little bit in our Black History Month episode when we're talking about Static Shock and how that handles stuff like
yes,
gun.
Yes. I'm sorry. No, Static Shock did a great job, and they did focus. You remember the mother dying and things like that as well.
Yeah, really, the only cartoon I know that something like the Great MacGrady would really fit, it may be Clarence.
Well, I don't see this happening in Teen Titans Go, even though I'm sure it'd be a laugh, but I'm sure they would do everything they could to make that person feel better. But I don't see Teen Titans Go doing anything like this. I don't see what's that show with the bird and the little badger guy on Cartoon Network? What's that show called again?
Regular Show?
Yes. They may, only because the way the show seems, maybe, but I don't think so. Disney seems to act like everything's magical, and it's like, no, because sometimes there's no magic in these situations. You have to accept that. But I hope someday Sonic Boom considers that, because Sonic Boom is funny, but at the same time, I think that they could briefly maybe do that if they do it right.
I feel like something like this would really win cartoons that are sort of like real life.
Yeah.
Because Clarence is really the only one I can think of that's really down to earth and not in some magical world with talking animals or anything.
Hey, I like Sonic Boom.
I'm not saying Sonic Boom is bad. I'm just not sure that if they tried to do an episode like The Great MacGrady, because of the setting, I don't think it would really be as good work out.
Yeah, because it is only like a 15-minute episode.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, they could surprise you. But no, I mean, that's just an idea. Is that it's hard because the shows these days are nothing like that. Even the TV shows these days are like, yeah, they would never do that. And if they do, it's going to be in a really weird way where you're like, okay, this is just not going to work out. But no, in cartoon-wise, for PBS, it would only have to be Arthur because I don't watch PBS anymore. Because, like, there's nothing good on that show anymore. Cartoon Network, I don't see anything except the one you mentioned. Sonic Boom, I could see, and this is just me thinking about it, I could see an episode where Sonic's feeling depressed because he feels like he's not a big hero, and maybe Dr. Eggman tells him that, he should consider helping other people, and maybe he introduces him to some child in the hospital who has cancer, and Sonic tries to make this person feel better before their surgery. Something nice like that, where Sonic would feel better in the end that he did something good and he helped someone out in their crisis. I could see something like that happen. But for those other shows on Cartoon Network, no, because the regular show I don't see doing that. Maybe, but no. Teen Titans Go, definitely no. Nothing else on there. Disney is just too magical. Everything's too perfect in that world. So yeah, I don't really see any other shows out there doing this, and I wish they would, because kids in the hospital need something like this too. Not just big healthy kids who are running around outside, because I spent many years after my surgery unable to run outside because I couldn't run. I could barely walk, and I had to teach myself walking, running, skipping, jumping, all stuff over again. And, that's not fun. And my parents were always afraid that, the tumor's going to come back, but the doctors had assured me that they took it all out. But, every year I had to go back to get, x-rays and MRIs and get blood drawn and all that stuff to make sure there was no trace of it. But, yeah, I really wish that more shows would focus on, reality of things like this, brain tumors, leukemia, different types of cancer, is that these things exist. You can't act like they don't exist, because when you do that, kids are going to be jerks, kind of like that bully was in the Peanuts special. They're gonna act like that because those same kids watch these TV shows too. So if they watch things like Teen Titans Go and they're just being jerks, of course the kid's going to be a jerk. But if there was ever an episode where Robin and Beast Boy visit a child in the hospital, and they're going to be like, wow, this is real. And, at least they would focus on the way Robin would handle it or Beast Boy would handle it. And maybe kids would be more familiar with cancer. And that's the sad thing is, for example, I used to staff at a Comic-Con here in Houston, Texas. And I had the idea of Extra Life or Children's Medical Network or Texas Children's Hospital, supporting the children's room in this Comic-Con. And I talked to the lady in charge, and she was like, well, we can't do that. And I asked her, well, why not? And she said, we don't want to make kids feel scared or ashamed or feel bad about themselves if they see pictures of sick kids in the room. And that's what she told me.
Well, how do you think they're going to act when they see sick kids in real life?
Exactly. And the thing is, they understand that not all kids are going to be perfectly healthy. I've been sick ever since I was a little girl. I mean, I'm a tiny little thing. When I was a little girl, I was itty bitty. And everyone always teased me and bullied me badly mostly because their parents don't educate them that there's all kinds of kids out there. But I was trying to do a good thing, was to try to, bring in, Texas Children's or Children's Miracle Network or things like that. But they told me no, because they don't want other kids to feel like, oh, mommy, why is that kid in a wheelchair? Why is there a picture of a bald kid? It's like, well, you're going to have to educate your kids eventually, because these things are real. You have to think of the kids who are currently in the hospital, who do have cancer, who have bald heads, who, can't do anything but sit in their bed and watch, TV in their room. Some kids, are lucky and they get better and their hair grows back. But, sadly, there's some kids who don't. And, I want to be able to do positive things more to where people notice. You don't have to accept and be like, oh, okay. But, at the same time, you want to be able to educate people just enough to say, okay, this is real. These things happen. But you never want to be negative about it and make someone feel like that they should be ashamed of have had cancer or leukemia or brain tumors or anything. Because, these things happen and people need to be able to accept that, especially young children, is know that these things are real. Don't say it'll never happen to me, it'll never happen to my best friend, because you never know. And that's something that people need to accept, is that you never know when these things happen. But they happen.
Anything else you want to add?
Well, I mean, like I said, just briefly sharing my brain tumor story is mostly all I can really do, because I've never had leukemia. I've never had the cancer that McGrady probably had. All I had is, my brain tumor. And of course, that affected every part of my body. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to use my hands again. I had to learn how to see again. And that was an issue because now I wear glasses. When I had the brain tumor, it affected everything, all the five senses. I had to learn all that stuff over again. And that wasn't fun. It was not fun at all. And, I had to go back to school. And that was because the school and the doctors made my parents take me back to school. And I was bullied tremendously bad. I mean, it was bad. But all I had was, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. At that time, all I had was the video game, the TV shows, and the comics. So Sonic got me through a lot. Sonic was a big distraction for me from this brain tumor. Even though, yes, I beat the brain tumor, but now I had to deal with all of these years of recovery, which was horrible on me because I was doing it by myself. My parents can't make me. My sister can't make me. No one could. I had to do it myself. I had to get up and walk. I had to get up and try to run. I had to get up and try to do all these things over again. But, for me, Sonic the Hedgehog was there at a perfect time because the games, Sonic 3 came out in 93. You had the 2 TV shows came out that same year. The comics came out from Archie Comics that same year. So for me, I always felt like Sonic the Hedgehog was always meant to be for me in a way, I felt like he was always meant to be mine because he was there exactly when I needed him. And when I would see Sonic run, it would encourage me to say, I want to be like Sonic. So I want to get up and try to run. Or you want to try to eat a chili dog. Or, simple things that Sonic did. And he helped me out a lot. I mean, he kept me positive and happy because the shows were entertaining. I enjoyed the comics. I loved my plushies. And that's what I latched on to. That's why I don't see anything wrong for cancer patients out there. No matter what your condition is, find something to latch onto that makes you happy, whether it's Sonic or singing or drawing. Find something positive that can distract you from the leukemia or whatever type of cancer you're dealing with or anything. Find something that makes you happy and don't worry about that other problem. Just kind of like stick it behind you, focus on what's in front of you and what's going to make you happy. That's what I encourage people out there.
And that was our episode on the Great MacGrady and why Charlie Brown. You can find all of Lizzy's in the show notes. You can also go back and watch our Sonic the Hedgehog episode. It's Houston Jam Time, where we can talk about Sonic and you can hear her full cancer story. And if you are interested in learning more about Movember and donating, the links to that will also be. Now, since I recorded this episode, I came across something that's actually really relevant. It's called Cancer vs. Cartoon, and that is a series where the host will have live stream cartoon raise money for the cancer treatment of a 17-year-old high school girl named Maddie Carlson. The guests have included Jorge Gutierrez, who created Tigre of Life. There's also Joe Murray, who created Rocco's Modern Life, Camp Laszlo. And there is also C.H. Greenblatt, who you might know from Chowder, Harvey. You can find a link to all of that in the show notes.